The Trump administration planning now to cancel all of the federal government's remaining contracts with Harvard University. The expected total of that would be roughly around $100 million. That's according to two senior administration officials. This directive is set to go out to agencies in a letter today, and it comes as we're also standing by for a hearing in the legal fight that's already existing between President Trump and the school. A federal judge is going to hear from both sides for the first time since temporarily blocking the administration from halting enrollment of international students at Harvard. Now, those foreign students, they make up more than a quarter of Harvard's enrollment. And on Monday, the president escalated his fight and demand for a list of new names of those students even further. And just last hour, we spoke with an international student who's about to graduate from Harvard.
I think Trump is going to make new threats and say new things every day, but we simply have to stay focused. We're going to fight this with all means that we have, whether it's the funding, but I think especially what is hitting the hardest right now at the heart of this community, it is the threat to essentially deport all international students, because without this international student body, then Harvard is not Harvard anymore.
CNN's Elena Train is at the White House. CNN's Mark Preston also standing by. Elena, let me get to you. You tell us more about this new reporting. You're just getting in about the newest move from the Trump administration.
Yeah, Kate, it's clear that Harvard has really become the symbol of the president, but also that of his top advisors. Their belief that Harvard and other liberal universities are a representation of the woke front. And we're beginning to see some of that retribution and consequences of the Trump administration's actions for what they argue are what Harvard is doing to really go against what the administration believes in. And we're seeing that today with what we're learning now. I spoke with two senior Trump administration officials who told me that they will be sending out, the Trump administration, a letter today to all federal agencies directing them to either cancel or direct federal funding for Harvard to other schools and universities and potentially trade schools. Now, of course, this is the latest turn of the wheel that we've seen the president and his administration try to use to hold Harvard accountable for, again, in their eyes, not embodying the type of principles that they believe they should. Now, I want to read for you just one statement from one of these senior Trump administration officials who gave me some insight into what they'll be doing today. They said that the General Services Administration will send a letter to federal agencies today asking them to identify any contracts with Harvard and whether they can be canceled or redirected elsewhere. Now, I'm also told, as I said, that this letter is going to go out today, but that the entirety of these contracts is roughly somewhere around $100 million. However, we've also heard the president argue that he wants to try and revoke $3 billion or so in grant money for Harvard as well. And just to run you through some of the key actions we've seen this administration take against Harvard in recent weeks. You mentioned some of them. One of them is, of course, the president said that he wants to ban Harvard University's ability to enroll international students, something we've already seen a judge get in the way of and halt that ruling. Another one is that he said he wants the names and countries of the thousands of international students at Harvard University, suggesting essentially that these countries that are hostile to the United States should be providing some of the funding for these students to go there. He's also threatened the president to revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status. That was mainly over what they argued was the university not agreeing to diversity in hiring practices that the Trump administration laid out in a previous executive order. Again, all to say, we are really seeing the president put the full weight of his angst of these quote-unquote liberal woke universities on Harvard and seeing them really bear the brunt of this assault on higher education.
Yeah, the question then becomes to what end? Elena, thank you so much. Great reporting, as always. Much more to come with that. Mark, at the same time, you have this hearing that Elena was talking about, the ban on enrollment of international students. There's a hearing that's happening today. Another one happening on Thursday, just as students are going to be, or this is graduation week. That's commencement day at Harvard. And the question then becomes like, what is actually going to happen here? How does this end?
Well, we're not necessarily sure how it is going to end, but we do have a little bit of an idea. We saw on Friday now that there was a temporary injunction put aside against the federal government based upon them freezing the money. We'll hear that this week. We're also going to hear, what you have talked about on Thursday as well. We're talking about with the international students. What we're seeing right now, Kate, is really an attack on the humanities, the arts and the humanities that we've seen from the Trump administration. We saw it with the Kennedy Center here in Washington, D.C. We see it with Trump now, not only doing this with Harvard, but also other academic institutions across the country who he wants them to conform to his way of thinking. Now, the Harvard president, Alan Garber, spoke this morning with NPR. He said that the federal government needs to take a step back. More importantly, that institutions, the leaders of these institutions across the country, need to redouble their commitment to the good of the nation and the world. Basically, what he's saying is we need to stand up and fight back.
Mark Preston, always great to see you. Thank you so much. Elena Trina at the White House for us. Much more to come from there as well.
It's as if we are being used as poker chips, as collateral being thrown from the Trump administration between the Harvard into the Harvard administration, while not recognizing that we also happen to have lives and stories of our own.
And the idea that these are radical troublemakers is just totally bonkers. These are some of our most studious students. A lot of Americans kind of take their good fortune for granted, but the foreign students feel so privileged to be here that they try to take advantage of every second that they're on our campus.
And there's more. Just yesterday, President Trump leveled a new threat to pull $3 billion in grants from the university and redirect that to trade schools. Joining us right now is Leo Jardian. He's an international student from Sweden at Harvard. He's about to graduate this week from the university. Leo, thank you for being here. You have been speaking up and speaking out about the moves from the Trump administration against your school. What's your reaction to this latest threat to redirect $3 billion in grants from Harvard to vocational and trade schools around the country?
I think Trump is going to make new threats and say new things every day, but we simply have to stay focused. We're going to fight this with all means that we have, whether it's the funding, but I think especially what is hitting the hardest right now at the heart of this community, it is the threat to essentially deport all international students, because without this international student body, then Harvard is not Harvard anymore. And, we're continuing fighting for my friends who just went home for the summer and simply don't know if they will ever be able to come back to this place that they now call home.
Graduation is Thursday. I mean, how different is this moment right now? Is it at this moment and also going to be with this really public, very serious legal fight now hanging over campus? I mean, what is the feeling, if you will?
Yeah, it is very different. Just personally, I've enjoyed these 4 years so much because of all the great people that I met. And just knowing that I might leave this place and it will not look the same next semester, it is truly heartbreaking. And that is why we're continuing this fight even over commencement. So later today at 5:30 p.m., we are rallying outside of after the commencement events of the day. We're having international students speaking, including me. We're having Jewish students speaking up. We're expecting a lot of turnout, and we're showing that even though they did this move when most students had left campus, we can still mobilize. And we're gonna send a clear message to the White House that even though you're trying to divide us right now, we are standing united as a community.
You wrote an opinion piece in the Crimson in April, and then saying that students and faculty need to stand up and speak up against this. And at that time, you wrote, "At this moment, we need Harvard to be a leader on behalf of all of us who feel threatened. It is time for Harvard to both stand up for its international students and for the ideals of academic freedom and democracy it claims to represent." Do you think the school has been a leader on your behalf?
Yeah, so I wrote that op-ed about a week before Alan Garber's statement, where he said we will not surrender our independence. And I think that all of campus right now are really proud of Alan Garber, but we're expecting him to continue on that strategy, because there are going to be many opportunities for Harvard to give in on some of the demands. But if there's one thing we know about Trump by now, it's that he's a pretty shitty poker player. If we start to give in on something, then he's going to send a new letter of demands the next week. And we simply have to hold the line, even though it truly feels like, and it is, so much at stake, whether it's the billions of dollars in research funding or, the future of thousands of students. We have no option but to continue fighting, because giving in cannot be an option.